Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Broken Theory. Today we got the homie Don AVELAR. What's good?
What's going on?
Everything blessed, highly favored. Yeah, I just
man.
wanted to talk with you, man, and see how you first got started with music.
So I started when I was like a little pup. I started playing the guitar when I was like 11 or 12, and then things just kind of escalated from there. I learned a little bass, jumped on the keys, played a little drums, and you know, as you growing up, when like going through high school and stuff, it's hard to like put together a band, you know what I mean? Have 3 to 5 people all with the same goals in mind, with the same vision, with the same dedication, work ethic, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it slowly just led to me into doing my own production, you know what I mean? And so that probably been making beats since probably 2014. So about 10 years, literally 10 years on the dot, pretty much. And then recently, probably maybe like 7 months ago, I decided, I was like, well, I got all these beats and no one's using them. Maybe I should use them. So I just decided to see where my pen game was, and you know what I mean, and just continue to get better and work at it and elevate and grow and get inspired by other people that do similar things and just keep it moving, you know?
100%, man. Yeah, you're definitely doing it. You know, the first step is starting, and you know, I just want to know, as far as like when you first got started with production, what led to you making your own beats? Like from where up until 2014 you go with music?
Well, kind of like what I touched on earlier, where, you know, it's hard to find people that you want to, you know, that have that same vision in mind. And so I've always had a love for hip hop. I remember, you know, listening to like Still Dre when I was before I was even in middle school. I was a little guy, and my older cousins were like, hey, check out Dr. Dre, check out this, check out that. And so I think I've always had a love for hip hop. And as I started to create more and more music, I just, you know, I felt myself more enamored with the production than the lyricism, at least at first, you know. Yeah. Whenever I listen to a song, I don't keep listening because the vocals are cool. I keep listening because the sound is just incredible. And then I listen to like the delivery and the vocals and things like that. So it was always the production side that made me stop and listen, go, whoa, hey,
Gotcha.
Let's listen to see where this goes. And so I think through creating my own music and then, you know, lack of other people wanting to create, it just led to me. It's like, hey, how can I do this on my own? And so it just started off on a little iPad with like a $20 program.
Okay.
I think it was called Nano Studio.
Okay.
And
I was gonna ask how you got started. What DAW you were using?
Well, after that, I had a good friend of mine kind of show me the ropes, and he was like, hey, I think you should jump into like Logic and Pro Tools and things like that. And that way you can really start to see the range of what you can do and start to learn the ins and outs of mixing and stuff like that. So luckily back then I had a good friend, shout out AJ, and he just was like, hey, this is Logic, this is Pro Tools, this is a MIDI plugin, these are synthesizers, this is how you sample, this is how. And I was like, oh, okay. So upgrading from the iPad to then Logic, and I still use Logic to this day, to be honest.
That's fire. For beats and vocals, or
well, now I've like thrown in MPC and my SP404, so I definitely do a lot of heavy sampling still. But after I extract it all, I jumped mostly back into Logic. I only use Pro Tools if like I'm like in a studio setting and that's what we're using. I'm like, okay, I will jump into Pro Tools, whatever. But if I'm at home, my preference, I'm gonna jump into Logic and do it all from there.
Word. Yeah, so I started as a rapper first and then got into the production side when I was homeless in 2017. So it was like, I kind of like applied myself and learned different things. So like when I was learning engineering, I was starting on Pro Tools, but then somehow, some way I lost my Pro Tools, ended up on GarageBand, moved up to Logic. And then from Logic, you know what I mean, I was always doing vocals on Logic. But FL Studio has been where I'm most comfortable as far as like making beats and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Man, a lot of producers have told me they love FL Studio.
Yeah, it's bro. Crazy. Like I have Machine standalone, and it's like, you know, I refuse to dive into that and learn the standalone because I'm just so comfortable where I'm at right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You found your process, your flow.
Exactly, bro. Like I can't go back. I want to go back because like the process and like limiting yourself and using standalone stuff, it's a whole thing in itself to where like, you know, you make completely different type of music. So I definitely want to do that. But you know, right now where I'm at, I can't take time away from something that's already working, you know?
No, everyone finds their own process. And I noticed that like, no matter, it could be, you could make almost identical style of music even, but the process to get from start to finish, everyone is totally different. Absolutely. And I kind of love that. It just, you really, that's how you kind of find your sound, your creativity, what inspires you, things like that. You told me that you started with writing and then you switched to production, or at least started to do production. What inspired you to start making beats? I'd like to hear the other way around, because I obviously started opposite.
Bro, I was, like I said, I didn't have money. So it was like, you know, at that point in my life, I was realizing that like, you can't really depend on nobody else. Like when it comes to my music, you know what I mean? And like me going to the studio, me getting my stuff engineered, me getting like videos done, things like that. Everybody wants money. And if I don't have the money to pay them, I'm not going to be able to, you know, create content at an efficient rate. So I was like, you know, I could bet on myself and learn these things. It may not be the best, but at the end of the day, bro, you know, I didn't know that God was teaching me a skill that in turn, at the end of the day, after chasing this mission, you know, and showing my devotion and stuff like that, I'd be able to eat off of the skills that I learned. Right. But I didn't know that, and that wasn't my intention when I was learning. I was just trying to stay above water.
I was gonna say, you're just doing what you could to survive, and keep it moving, and keep the dream alive. And you're like, nah, we're not stopping here.
Yep,
sucks right now, but we're not stopping here.
Yeah, exactly, bro. And you know, just off of that, man, I just wanted to create community, and that's what the whole open mic is about. I wanted to do the community to where like if people are in a moment to where they need to lock in, regardless of like what's going on in the rest of the world, they'll have a space that they'll be able to ask somebody questions that they'll be able to get answers right on the spot. No problem, no charge, no nothing. You know what I mean?
Man, I wasn't existing. And I'm seriously looking forward to tomorrow, man. Seriously.
Yeah, no doubt, bro.
It's gonna be a great time.
I got a whole bunch of people pulling up that's gonna be first timers, bro. So like, we definitely gonna have fun, bro. And we usually go from 8 to 10, but you know, especially since we got a whole bunch of new people coming tomorrow, I'm gonna make sure everybody gets to play their songs and everything. So we just gonna be rocking out, man.
Man, that sounds like a good ass time. I'm stoked on it. Seriously.
Yeah, hell yeah, bro. I heard your stuff. Your stuff is dope. That easy mode is fire, bro.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, bro. I feel like that was the first time, like I wrote something, and when I performed it, I felt, you know, you feel that confidence. You're like, okay, I can do this shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you know. And so I think just that was kind of like a pivotal moment where when I finished that song, I was like, okay, if I can do it one time, I could do it 1,000.
So that was the first song?
Not necessarily. I would say that was the first song I felt confident
to release.
I probably, I released another song before that, but this was probably the song that like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, we can fucking do this, man.
Yeah.
I wrote some songs before, and other people were like, hey man, that's dope, just release it. I'm like, okay, you know, you feel that uneasiness. You're like,
pressure.
All right, you know, yeah, you're just like, I don't know, I don't feel like it's my best work, but at the end of the day, like you created it, you created this brain baby, and it came to life. Like you got to share it with the world. You don't know who you're going to connect with. So,
Absolutely.
But I would say that easy mode was definitely the first one where I was like, it instilled maybe that confidence in me that not only can I do the production side, but I definitely can continue writing and grow from that, you know?
Out of the joints that I listen to on your Spotify, I will say that probably is my favorite. Like as far as like the vibe, you know, the lyrics, everything, it was just like its own thing. I was like, wait, is this him? You know, I was just checking, bro, because like everything was just on point, bro. I don't know, man. And you said that was your first time, so kudos, man. As an artist, how do you feel like you found your sound, bro?
Oh man, I think I found my sound by going through what wasn't my sound. So it was like going through stuff where I tried just any sound you could probably think of in hip hop, like super mainstream, super underground. I tried to emulate, especially when I was first making beats, you know. I tried to emulate, and then you start to chop it up and you start to find what your go-tos are, you know what I mean? So I noticed like a lot of times I'll have like a very like almost like a West Coast melody, but with these 3-6 Mafia style drums on them, you know? And so you start to blend what inspires you. So I think it was just chopping, you know, going through several cutting samples, different synths and and just like really narrowing down what every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, that's it right there. You know,
so at what point did you
just
realize like certain, my bad to cut your wisdom.
No.
I'm just curious. At what point did you realize certain things that you were attracted to? Like you said, 3-6 Mafia drums. Like at what point were you listening to things in like, I gotta get my bass like this. I gotta have these drums. I gotta, you know, at what point did that part of the journey start?
I would say that probably started maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. It's weird that you said that, like, hey, I got to get my bass like this. There was the debut album for Flatbush Zombies. I love Eric the Architect, one of my favorite producers. He literally does it all. You know what I mean? He produces, he writes, he's incredible. He's an incredible musician. And I just remember hearing like the bass and how clean it was. And I just remember being like, damn, this is their debut like album. And this shit sounds impeccable. And it was just like, I don't think it was like maybe one record or one song, but it's just like an accumulation of, when you start to make music, I think you start to listen to music a little bit differently, and you start to kind of break down each song, and you're like, how did they make that? How did they make that sound? How did they get that riser in there? How
were you getting your answers at that point? Because I know you said you're like kind of like self-taught. So like, where were you going to find those answers?
Truly, it's been trial and error, man. And like YouTube University, I think. Yep. I think when it's hard to find people because everyone has their own life, right? Everyone has their own plate, and it's very full. And so, yeah, you know, you can meet with like certain friends or experienced people that are like, hey, this is how you make that, this is how you make this. But at the end of the day, most people don't necessarily have a couple hours every week to stop and be like, yeah, let me show you the ropes, you know?
Yeah.
So luckily, you know, I had a friend that kind of showed me, hey, this is Logic. These are the ins and outs a little bit. But I think it was more like I would literally download the song, drop it in the DAW, and then literally listen to the song while I'm tweaking the bass to emulate and match it. And I kind of learned a lot. I do that when I'm even mixing songs. I'm like, oh, this song kind of sounds like a little bit like that vibe. Let me grab that song, throw it in the DAW, put it in its own bus. So that way I can mute back and forth between my song and that song and see if I'm emulating the frequency properly.
Wow.
So I
just dropped the gem.
So it's really, it's a lot of just like, I want to sound like that. So let's just literally listen for it and just cut away, chip away at it until you get at least close, or you get something that you're like, oh, that sounds nasty. Yeah, let's leave it right there. You know, and it just, maybe I didn't get to exactly where I thought I wanted, but definitely got to some place where I can use that for the future and continue to grow on that, you know?
For sure.
So
yeah, that's how it was with me and my mixes as far as like beats. I was chasing a certain sound for like my drums and certain things like that. So I would put the other song that I was going for in the bus and like make sure the levels were exactly where I wanted it. And just kind of like make sure volume wise it was in competition with the song that I really liked it. And then over time, you know, I started understanding the standard of what I was looking for in my records. So that's really dope, man. You know, it's funny because you were doing it for an opposite reason than what I was doing, but we were still doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
We get to the same, all roads lead to Rome. You know what I mean? It's like, we literally were doing very similar things just to get a very similar outcome. So yeah, it's kind of what we talked about earlier. Just everyone really finds their own path, their own way to get there, and there is a lot of similarities. But that, you know, that's how you find other creatives that are just as passionate as you are, and you can kind of find those gems through each other. You know? Yeah,
it just goes to show, you know, one technique can go different ways. You know, just depending on what you're trying to do. As a creative, bro, how important is faith to you?
Faith? Is that your question?
Yep.
Oh, I just want to make sure I heard you right. I think faith and consistency kind of go hand in hand, but it's incredibly important. Even just the last few weeks, I've kind of been sitting with myself where, I've made certain investments and you're planning shows and you're doing this and that, but nothing's quite come to fruition yet. And you're just like, man, I really hope all this shit works out. But you really can't, it's hard to separate yourself and put yourself sometimes in a positive mind state and say, hey, you're investing this because you believe in yourself, because you know what you're capable of, and don't necessarily have any positive or negative expectations, but see what comes of it and then just learn from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think faith is incredibly important, but with faith without consistency, I feel like it's just more like useless hope. You know what I mean?
Hoping and wishing. Yep.
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
Yes, I have faith in my capabilities and everything, but I also have faith in my work ethic and the consistency that, okay, what am I going to do? Even if it's not every day, you schedule a few times a week where you're like, okay, this block right here, I'm going to knock out these administrative things. I'm uploading my songs to my BMI or ASCAP. I'm sending out emails to submit for different festivals or playlists. And then so it's, yes, the creating the music is incredible and that's why we do it. But I think having the consistency blended with the faith is really where we're going to get to our ultimate goal,
Absolutely. And when you learn how much things go into the business side of music, you realize, bro, it's really a money game to where, like, if you don't invest into yourself, nobody else will. And like,
exactly,
when you're meeting with labels and, even talking about deals and things like that, if you can't provide the proof, if you can't show that, like, this works, I've put in X amount of dollars, received this, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, trying to hope and wish that somebody will save
exactly.
you. So it's good that you can recognize
nobody's coming to
that.
save you.
Exactly.
That talk is the damn truth, man.
Yep. Talk about your average day. What does it look like for you?
So, I mean, realistically, I still got a 9 to 5, of course. So Monday, I'm usually up at 5, going to the gym. My lady's really good about getting my ass up, and she's like, it's time to go. So,
get your ass up.
Exactly. It's time to get to it. So 5 a.m., we're usually out the house by 5:15, 5:20, at work by 7:30. And then usually I'll take my lunch hour to do literally stuff like this, where maybe I need to send some emails. Maybe I need to set up a call. Maybe I'm setting up interviews. Or maybe I'm just, whatever the case may be, maybe I'm knocking those out. And I take this 35 to 45 minutes on my lunch, do that, get back to work, leave work at 4, come home, and I'm either rehearsing for the upcoming shows, practicing new songs, mixing and mastering, or of course doing more administrative stuff, making calls. So I think it's just, I would say, I probably spend, 2 to 3 hours a day outside of my regular job, just making sure that this vehicle is continuing to move. You know what I mean?
Yep. You got to make sure everything moves forward, man.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing for me is like every day, just do one thing.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be, you don't have to finish the whole album today, but hell, you need to send those 12 emails to those, to those college radio stations and because you got some good ins. Send those emails, take the 45 minutes, do the emails. You're going to sleep so much better. And then the next day, hey, we got to record that one verse. You know what I mean? Let's record the verse. Then the next day, okay, we gotta mix and master the song. Let's just focus on that. And it just, those steps, they really pile up quick, man. And at the end of the month, you're like, oh shit, we did a lot this month. We did 3 shows, we got the album done, we booked XYZ, and we got this interview set up. And so, like, before you know it, your schedule's packed. You know what I mean? So it's really just about taking one step in front of the other and just doing it one at a time.
Amen.
I
found that whiteboards have helped me significantly, man. I have 3 of them in my studio.
I need a bigger one. I have like 2 smaller ones, and I'm like, I need more space.
I got 2 small ones, and I got a huge one, and it's like, the huge one is like for the monthly goals and everything like that, and then one is for daily, the other one is weekly, and it's like every time I step in here, no matter what pulls me away, at any time, I can always come back and know where I'm at and what task I got to do. You know what I mean?
I love that.
When you're working
really
for yourself,
have to
bro.
Write them down, man.
Exactly, bro. When you're working for yourself, it doesn't go forward unless you push it forward. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to grind it out. Any books that you're reading that changed your life?
Oh, you know what? Yes. They're 1 second because they're audiobooks. I forget the title.
All good, man. All good.
I'm pulling them up right now. So, there we go. It's called The Happiness Advantage. It's the 7 principles of positive psychology. And really all it talked about, the main goal at the end was it's taking your big dream right here. And this is honestly part of what inspired me to get a whiteboard. Is you take your big dream, right? Our big dream is to sell out Chase Stadium. We're selling out Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? We have sinks out the wazoo. We got, placements, all of the above. But to get there, obviously there's many, many, many steps, right? So what this book was talking about is to break down your goals into smaller steps and say, okay, well, in order to get that, we have to put out music. And then after we put out music, we got to market the music. And then we have to make, more network connections in order to, get the music into the right places. So I just started breaking down my goals a lot smaller, and it helps me not feel so overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Kind of like we were talking about, you just write them down. You're like, okay, today I got to send out those emails. If you look at it all from a big picture, you step back, man, I got to send 250 emails this month. I got to finish the album. I got to set up those interviews. If you think about it all like that, it seems impossible.
Yeah.
But if you just really break it down, and that's one of those books that really helped me just kind of, take everything and not have so many high expectations. Of course, you want the best and you expect the best, but at the same time, not everything is what you think it's going to be. And sometimes it's even better. So kind of let things play out, learn from them, and break down your goals into more attainable goals. So that way you can kind of push the bar a little higher every time you go,
That's amazing.
So
I'm
that's
definitely about
definitely
to
one
pick
of the
that
books.
book up, bro.
Bro, it really helped me not to be so, I still get this way, but just like so damn pessimistic. You meet so many people, especially in the music industry, and I'm sure people in the film industry can also relate, where it's just, there's an abundance of people that only have their best interest in mind and act as such. And so it teaches you how to kind of take everything with a grain of salt and just kind of like learn how to weed those things out, learn from those processes, and really narrow down what works for you and what pace works for you. Amen. So still things I'm working on personally, but I try to think about them every day,
100%, bro. What sacrifices do you feel like you've made to get where you are right now?
It's a great question. I mean, like right now, just to put it in perspective, like, just to be real with you, like 7-8 months ago, I called my mom and I said, hey mom, can I move back into your house? Because I really want to go full time with this. And she saw what I was doing and she's like, okay. She's like, as long as you're serious. And so I moved back to my mom's house. Instead of, I could have kept my job. I could have had a nice little apartment and just da-da-da. But I knew that extra income, once I did the math, like I could be putting all of my expendable income into my business. So I took the time, I swallowed my pride, and I said, this is what I want to do. And literally you know what I mean? Just the amount of things that I felt like I've accomplished just in the last 7 or 8 months is probably times 10 of the things I've done in the last 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And just taking that time to really focus in and just keeping the main thing the main thing. And I know like most people are like, oh, I want my nice crib and my nice car, and those things will come, you know what I mean? But you gotta keep the main thing. So if you want the nice crib in the car from your career, from your 9 to 5, that's perfectly fine, and you can do that. But to get the financial stability through building your own business, there's a lot of other things that come with it. So taking pretty much almost every last expendable dime that I have and putting it back into this, to do more shows, to travel, to get to some session so that way I can just be a part of it, or just to give myself some extra opportunity. You know what I mean? That's just, it's really what it is. And so I can see myself in the next 7 or 8 months how, you know what I mean? Probably not going to be here at my mom's anymore. I'm probably going to be moving up. I already see the results starting to come in just from being like, hey, this is what it is. You know what I mean? I got to do what I got to do to make it happen. So, it really takes everything you got.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't state that enough. You know what I mean?
For real. But I mean, at the end of the day, to be able to look at your position where you're at and say, you know what, I'm going to downgrade. It takes a lot of awareness to be able to recognize that was what was necessary in order for you to get where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure it hurt a lot to go backwards. Oh yeah, but that's definitely
my pride was bruised a little bit.
But that's definitely a situation to where, like, you're taking one step backwards, and then when you're ready, you're gonna take 5 forward, and absolutely. You're setting yourself up for success. And big shout out to mom too. You know what I mean? For definitely giving you the alley-oop.
Oh, big time. My mom, at first when I was like, okay, but now she's, oh, when are you doing this show? When's your next tour coming up? Oh, she's locked in. But
you gotta have her locked down with the merch, bro.
Bro, she's like, who's running your merch table? I'll run your merch table, So, and like the overwhelming support, just because they've seen the effort that I put in, is just, you can't buy it, man. Like, my entire family has just been like, okay, I see you. Let's what do you need? And so I think it's just when people see you have that positive, aggressive, but uplifting energy, they want to be part of it. And so I'm a firm believer, you attract what you put out. So you attract who you are. If you look around your circle and you're like, dang, there's a lot of snakes in my circle. You might need to take a look in the mirror and talk about how you move and be real with yourself. You know what I mean? So
you might be the snake.
Boom. You might be the problem. Exactly. Yeah. So like you said, it takes that self-awareness to be like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure my goals are accomplished?
Yep. So, absolutely. How did you get your name?
Oh, so my grandfather, he's Don Pilar. And I always thought that was cool. And so I just kind of stole that from him. So shout out my abuelo, Don Pilar. And I was like, oh, the Don AVELAR. You know what I mean? Just
that's fire.
Kind of rolled off the tongue. It's, I always loved my last name. My dad's side of the family, very, very prideful about our last name, our family. And, that was instilled in me too. So I think it was just kind of paying homage to my homage. I don't know, people say it differently, but paying homage to my family and my grandfather. And so I thought it was a nice way to do it.
Absolutely, man. You got to keep the legacy alive.
Absolutely. No question.
How do you handle creative block if ever you get moments of doubt or anything like that?
That's a good question. I noticed that usually, honestly, something as simple as like hitting the gym, or just getting some fresh air. Even I'll just not open up my computer for 3 or 4 days and just say, okay, I need to stop listening to sounds. I need to stop tweaking. I need to stop and just kind of let it rest. And I think letting your brain recharge is a real thing. You can't just go all the time, 100% full throttle. As much as I would love to, which is literally not humanly possible. So I think taking the time to be inspired by life and your family and your loved ones and your friends and living life, I feel like also inspires you to create. So as you go through life, there's things that just inspire you to, you're just like, oh man, I feel like writing. I feel like making a beat right now. I feel like, so I really think there has to be a healthy balance between living life and being creative, because without either one, neither seems as fun, I feel like. So
yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like you have to have that balance.
What do you feel like your biggest investment in music has been since, besides time?
Biggest investment. I would say biggest investment is definitely, to get in front of the right people. Sometimes, you know, I feel like there's a stigma on like pay to play or pay to, you know, do this or that, not realizing that everyone working in this business is running a business, you know? So I think people need to kind of step back and just vet the opportunities to see which ones are right for you. You know what I mean? Not every show, you know, opening show opportunity is great for me and my sound, you know, so I'm not going to take every single one. So I think it's taking the time to invest in, hey, you know, this could put me in front of a good crowd, plus this is probably a good sound for me, you know, it's probably make some network connections here. Let's go ahead and invest into that, you know. And I think just taking the time to do your due diligence, as I, you know, not gonna lie, I did with you. I said, okay, is this something I want to proceed with? Is this something that I feel like is a great image for the brand? I love how you handle yourself, how you handle your business, how you're running everything. And, you know, the company that surrounds you, I respect very much. So that's why I chose to do it. And I think, it just, everyone needs to take the time to figure out which opportunities are best for them, you know?
For sure.
And I think that's really, really what it is. And don't be afraid to pull the trigger. Not every opportunity is going to be amazing. It's, you know, a lot of it is learning and just being like, okay, cool. Here's the bread. Let's see where this goes. Ask a lot of questions. You know, hey, if you're doing like a pay to play show, how long is my set? Can I bring my own equipment? Can I get in touch with the sound guy? Can I, you know what I mean? Is there a sound check? What time do I need to be at the event? So like, yes, invest in yourself, but make sure that you're doing the due diligence to vet and take care of yourself too, you know?
Amen. Who are some of the people that you know in common between us?
Well, I saw you did an interview with Unlearn the World, and I really love that. And a lot of gems dropped in there, and I was like, okay, you know. And also, to be honest with you, I love your page in general. I see you always dropping beats on there with the machine and stuff. And also high quality. So I love high quality, you know. Yep. I'm a sucker for high quality. So if I see, you know, someone's put in the time and effort for the visuals to be on point, the sound to be on point, the light to be on point, that means this person takes the time and has practiced many hours to get there too. You know, it's not just, they didn't just wake up and they were just good at it. You know, this person spent many, many hours and many, many dollars to create this. And so I have a lot of respect for the time and the money that goes into people making sure that they put out the best quality product that they can. So
absolutely, man.
So
what would you say? Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead. No. I wasn't saying anything important.
What would you say is your favorite movie?
Oh, favorite movie. Oh, that's tough because I feel like it changes often. You know what I mean? Just depends on the mood.
Right now, where you at? Right now, you know what? A quick go-to for me is always the first Gladiator. Obviously, the second one's not out, but original Gladiator. Just, are you not entertained? Just, you know, I don't know, something epic about his story where, you know, he's this high-ranking general, and then he was taken down. You know, his knees were taken out from him, and he still somehow gained the respect of the entire. Yeah, just because of the person who he was. You know what I mean? It commanded respect. It just, the way he carried himself, and just a very inspiring story. Just, you know, shit can go wrong, but you can, whatever situation you're in, you can make it yours. You know Absolutely.
What I mean? So
it matters how you handle it. The choices that you make when you're down and when shit is going down is if you're gonna turn this motherfucker right back around. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You know, it's, my dad always told me, he's like, hey, life is 10% what happens, 90% how you respond. Everyone goes through shit. Everybody eats shit sometimes. Everyone falls on their face. Like, how many times are you gonna get back up? You know? So
you got to.
What are you gonna do? Just lay down? No.
Yeah, complaining don't do anything.
Nobody listens anyway.
Yep.
Does you no good.
Exactly, man. Who would you say are 5 people that have inspired you in your sound?
Ooh, 5 people.
It could be artists, it could be producers, just anything that you've took from hip hop, or an artist, a person, whatever in general.
So I would say probably my top 2 favorite artists, like of all time, are going to be Prince and Carlos Santana.
Wow.
I think those two. I grew up listening to those with my dad. Like we would always just, Saturday morning, he puts on Purple Rain. And, when you're little, you're like, what is this? But then you grow to love it. You start to understand why it's so fucking amazing. And, you start to love it and start to really appreciate sonically what Prince does. And same thing for Carlos Santana. That dude literally has brought so many different people together, so many cultures together to make so many different styles and songs. And he's just all, I don't need to sing. I'm just going to play the guitar. Let's just write some music together. And so, when he started, he was singing, but like, I feel like later on he was I just want to play guitar and just help compose, So I think those two artists definitely influenced me heavily into kind of just how I create and just, sticking with my gut. If I think it sounds dope, I think it sounds dope, and that's what it's going to be.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm always open to feedback and all that stuff, and to tweaks and changes. Of course, always open to that. But like, I think feeling confident, you're like, hey, I think that sounds dope. Let's rock it. So
absolutely
breaking the mold. As producers, I would definitely say my two biggest influences for producing would, or maybe three, would probably be like Alchemist, Kanye, Dr. Dre. Wow. I would say those are probably like my three, like who I looked up to, who I, Dr. Dre and Alchemist, knowing for just finding just the most perfect fucking loop you could think of, and just you could hear it for hours, and you're just like, how, and then Kanye with his creativity with the synths and sampling, and it's just, especially Graduation. That's probably my favorite Kanye album, is Graduation.
Oh, that one hit different, bro.
Dude, just the production value on that is just insane. That album alone was probably 50% of the reason why I started producing. Just like every beat was just, it smacked, but it was also so like graceful, so just so much finesse and so much just like so fluid. So it was just, it had everything you wanted. It had the bass, but it also had the fluidity. It had the soft touches. I would say definitely a big inspiration for sure.
Wow. What's some advice that you would tell your younger self when first starting?
Don't worry about fucking pleasing anyone.
Powerful.
Because the more you worry about people pleasing, the less you're going to satisfy your goals and your true self. Now, I'm not saying, don't be reasonable and don't, learn from people and work with people and grow and collaborate. But, I think a lot of people just kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to do this because I don't want to upset them, or I don't want to. Man, you got to do what you got to do. Yep. As long as you're not hurting anyone or yourself, do what you got to freaking do to get there. Like, don't let anyone tell you anything different. If you believe it, it can be done.